Just going to jump in the elevator. Hey, Simon, I'm headed upstairs. I've got about a minute. Tell me what you do.
So good to see you. Hi, I'm Simon, the co-founder and CMO of INSTREAMATIC. Audio advertising has been the fastest growing ad format for the last 3 years running, and yet the audio ad format has been stagnant for decades. Still the same old 30-second ad spots crammed back to back. So at INSTREAMATIC, we're transforming the audio ad industry with AI-driven contextual audio ads. So our platform allows for any audio ad campaign to be contextualized for users, making it more relevant and engaging. We use generative AI and voice tech to generate perfectly human voices and creative that adapt to the user's environment, mentioning various targeting parameters like city, day part, type of content. And this drives more engagement, increases ROI. And so our contextual audio ads can literally take a single ad and automatically create thousands of creatives for each environment with a single click of a button. We're a distributed team of 26 people comprising marketing and tech startup veterans. We just passed an ARR of $6 million. We 3x'd our business year on year in 22. And we're seeing strong product market fit with brands like Audi, Unilever, and MasterCard already trusting us, with more joining each week. Now we're raising a $2 million round to build out our sales team and scale up the business. Thank you.
That was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Ash, what you've done the elevator video.
Yeah. No, he's got all the elements of the pitch, and I understood what they're doing. I understood the difference around it. He talked about his you know, the revenue piece and how the business is moving, right? His growth. He also got his ask in as well within the right time. I wonder, you know, and Simon, we'll push a little bit on this, if I may, because it was,
sure.
It was definitely
Please.
a good pitch. I'm curious about, like, you know, when we think about audio and audio advertising, it's kind of it's been around for a while. You know, what do you have some stats around the engagement piece? Because I was waiting for that, right? So for instance, you know, when you go from static ads to dynamic, you know, visual ads on Google, for instance, the click-through rate and ultimately the cost of conversion seems to improve. With the likes of the car companies that you worked with, did they see efficient ways to get test drives, for instance, for their cars? Or tell me more about that.
Yes. So there's a lot of, well, first of all, you know the background to you know how we got here, which is that we've iterated and pivoted through a number of different products to get to you know, to generative AI contextual audio ads. What I felt, I've kind of put that piece of it, which is very of the moment and is showing like very definite product market fit, kind of front and center, without unpacking some of the other aspects of the business. Thinking that I just want to try to, I mean, I try to kind of have like a package of all things in there in the beginning, and in a minute pitch, it's just a little bit, it gets murky. So I've kind of pulled this one aspect, which I think showcases what we're doing, which is, I mean, our goal is to be the leading independent audio ad tech business out there. And contextual audio ads showcases a lot of the technology that we've developed. And it's also taken us understanding the kind of heavy lift of doing SDK integrations and kind of high friction B2B sales to come to a point where now we've incorporated the tech into this product, which requires no integration. It's a click, you extract a VAS tag, and you can insert it into any campaign. So yeah, the engagement, that's a long way of saying that the engagement is different across different products. What we see on contextual audio ads is it can be anything from, you know, 50% higher to 100%, you know, higher in terms of brand recall uplift. and and overall engagement. With
Mm.
voice ads, where we had the interactive part, the engagement, and I guess like what we would call the click-through rate or the speak-through rate,
Yeah.
that was like something like 5x higher, greater than with a
Wow.
regular audio ad. Because there, if you've elected to actually speak to an ad, you've already kind of taken a step towards the brand. So
Yeah.
you have an intent to follow through. But what if I start talking about voice ads and voice surveys and all of these other kind of aspects of it, I feel it gets cloudy.
I think you can encapsulate this in the idea. You talk about the fact that it's an ancient format, and I've been doing audio since I started
Audible.
in 1980.
Yeah.
So it hasn't changed. But so now think about the investor's perspective. Assuming you're talking either to an information services SaaS-oriented investor or a media-oriented investor, everybody understands one basic idea, that by segmenting your audience, you can increase the value and the conversion rates with more targeted advertising. We've talked in the past about the fact that this isn't total personalization, it's segmentation, but automated, highly efficient segmentation. That's the key to increasing conversion rates and monetization opportunities for creators. That's all, I think, all you need to say, and that's a 10-second chunk.
Right. What was my timing on it? Did I come in under 1 minute?
You were perfect. You were perfect.
Okay.
You're fine.
All right.
Simon, like, let's elevate the conversation a little bit, because so there's right now in the market, because you have your fundraising going on, what's happening now is generative AI is the flavor of the month, Simon. Okay. We're seeing a lot of that, and when we're talking to VCs, and I had a conversation just in the last 7 days with a VC around generative AI. He came to me and I said, you're hearing a lot of pitches. What's your feedback? He's like, a lot of the founders are stamping this on. What he would like to know is, how does the generative AI kind of transform the industry that the person's participating in, right? Mm-hmm. And so, Simon, like, in your pitch, because you did mention the generative component and contextualization, you mentioned that in a couple of times. So I think you have some time in your pitch to kind of reimagine what it's like to have an audio ad, right? Reimagine it completely, And so for me, when I think about what you're doing, because it's location-based, contextual, relevant to the person, using the right voice format, you could change the person's voice so it sounds like it's my mom and I have to listen to it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of fun stuff you could do with this, right? That was meant as a joke, by the way.
Privacy implications of
don't use that. That was meant as a joke. Don't especially my mom. I wouldn't like that. But Simon, like, for me, you have all the right mechanic components down, but I feel that there's an opportunity for your big picture, Simon, on this, right? Because if you're doing all these components right, what does this company actually become? Because you are going to be in there and you're going to get your click-through rates, whatever we want to call it, the engagement rates, that 5x, okay? And they're just going to, then what happens, right? And I kind of wanted to know.
Marketing crossroads.
Sorry, say that again, Mitch.
Are you the crossroads of conversational marketing where everything will pass through? Something like that.
Yeah. Because, Simon, for me, again, it comes down to the founder that we're speaking to. I have no doubt you could raise the capital that you need and you're going to grow and these pieces are there. And for me, from an investment standpoint, to encourage that generative AI investor type that would be looking at a deal like this, I would be interested to know a little bit more about where this business goes. Like, if this takes off and suddenly everyone's injecting their podcasts and any other interstitials with your script and your code, what does this business become, Simon?
Right.
Right.
Are
What
you-
is that big picture? I want you to help me imagine what the future holds. And Mitch brought something up really well, right? You know, that conversational component, right? Is
Yep.
there a way, for instance, to be in a position where, you know, for me, so I'll tell you, Simon, where my brain went on this, okay? And you're the expert,
Yep.
but I'll tell you where my brain went. You brought up cars, right? I was thinking that, you know, you could be in a position where you hear a local contextual ad for an Audi vehicle, right? And you're like, okay, this is really interesting. I've seen a couple of video advertisements on television. And what happens is I'm like, okay, is this interesting for you? Yes. And what happens is immediately you're starting to have that conversational piece with, like, you know, whoever is the Audi spokesperson, right? Like, you know, George Clooney, right? You start talking to George Clooney and George is saying, hey, do you want to come for a test drive tomorrow, right? And within, like, you know, the cycle time, you know, when I look at what you're doing, I'm like, wow, this could revolutionize how that program engagement is. Because right now it's kind of broken, Simon, right? You know,
Yeah.
people just get you to the front page of a website. But with what you're building, you can completely create the holistic component. And if you're charging on a cost per test drive versus a cost per impression, suddenly that changes the dynamic, and you could create a really fun, engaging, interesting, you know what I mean, element that kicks in. So, Simon, tell me more about this, please. I want to know more.
So I think, you know, I think that there is that big picture, like, you know, that big vision.
Yeah.
So there is that big vision there. It's a very siloed industry, right? So there are all these pieces that at some point will start to mesh together. And there will be industry standards. IAB will be involved. There'll be standards which allow you to take, you know, to take an experience and move it from, I don't know, from an audio ad to a response. So the audio will play an ad. You can respond, and there will be a seamless handshake with Google Assistant or whatever the new Siri is going to be, because it's going to be, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be orders of magnitude better than it is at the moment. You know, we can see that already because the text interaction is already there with chats. So the voice assistants will be there, but you still need advertising. You still need marketing. You need advertising. You know, hate it, love it. It's going to be there, and it needs to speak with these new technologies and mesh seamlessly. So I think that's where it's going to happen. So I feel that it's not there yet, right? There are issues around, you know, mic access, and there are issues around, you know, cookies and tracking and all of this first party data. But there is, I think that voice will. I have a vision, or we have a vision, that voice will be a layer that sits across all of this, because it's going to become such a natural way to communicate with data. I mean, it's the most natural interface. I mean, we've had a few hiccups and false starts with it because it just wasn't quite good enough. But I think we can all see that is going to, it's just going to slot into place, and it's going to be a fantastic experience. So sorry?
That vision is very compelling. So that might be your opening statement. Can you imagine a world in which you talk back and converse with advertising?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I think that world is coming. I mean, there are roadblocks all over the place for it, and there are, you know, there are going to be fights around it. But you don't need to be, if you are on the advertising side of it. Where I think we can find a place is to create that bridge between the brands and the voice. And when you have voice, then that enables a call to action, because as soon as you're into the domain, if I can hand off I don't need to be powering this the call to action, but I can be creating the handshake between Audi and the voice assistant, whichever one it is,
Right. So
because it should be agnostic, and then powering that interaction, that commercial interaction, and hopefully then what you can do for the first time, which hasn't been possible ever with an audio ad, is to actually create top of funnel marketing and drop people into a purchase decision from having heard an audio ad.
So what's a comparable in the past? Are you Google advertising, or are you DoubleClick, or have you thought about how to position yourself in the investor's mind relative to the industry? Are you a provider, an arms dealer to everybody? Are you a provider to a few select partners? I
think where we want to be. I think is we want to be that invisible slice of technology that powers everybody.
The crossroad of conversational marketing.
Yeah, I think that's where we want to be. I don't think we want to be we don't want to be the ad exchange. There's a lot of competition there.
Yep.
We want to be that slice that just does the voice, the voice part of it, the voice marketing or the conversational marketing better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And connects brands with really connects brands in a dialogue with in a spoken dialogue with their with their audience. And that's I mean that we sort of started there, and we were a little bit early because technology wasn't quite up to that ask. Now the technology is there, but there are a lot of barriers and silos which need to be broken down for it to become a truly just huge market.
Yeah. So again, like where the business is going, Simon, do you feel, based on what you just said now, do you feel like you're going to be kind of that protocol layer, right? The thing that's going to be connecting everyone, and you're going to be part of that, and it might, you're the.
I think that's. I mean, that's the big bold vision. But if that doesn't work, I mean, this is not what I would be pitching you as the investor, but if that doesn't work, then I think that we have strong enough product and monetization that even if we end up being a piece of that overall picture, there's still good value there.
Got it.
And you want to stay away from becoming one of the monoliths vendor of choice. And the example I would point to, and I can't remember the name of the company prior to it being acquired by Samsung, but the one that drove Bixby was initially positioned as the every voice interface tool that you could call and was open source. But then it got pulled into one of the one of the big leaders and closed off and died. So that's one of the things that you need to be aware of, the investor potentially mapping you back to think, well, their big risk is that they get acquired too early by somebody so that they don't have the opportunity to become the partner for everyone.
Yeah. Simon, is there a hesitation on, what you just said, the big vision, the big, right? Do you have a hesitation to not bringing it up in your pitch? Because you do have enough time, right? There is time in your pitch to kind of just quickly in 6 seconds, maybe bring that out. What's the hesitation that you have for, not telling the world? Because
I think you're right. I think I should. I think in this pitch, I was just trying to be very focused on something which feels very real and that's proven. And I'm selling I'm not selling the future at this point. I'm selling
the present,
present, and something that you can tangibly extrapolate forwards. But you're right. I mean, that isn't the big the big story didn't come across in that 1 minute pitch.
And you just need a phrase, I think, because it was a very complete presentation. You just need a phrase that crystallizes this idea.
Yeah. So Simon, let's let me quantify that for you, if I may. Okay. You're raising, and this is going to come in, we're going to talk about this a little bit later when we do our capital strategy as part of the Hyper Accelerator. But Simon,
Yep.
you're asking for $2 million, correct?
Yes.
Right. And Mitch, just to kind of do our math, right? Because Mitch and I, in this role right now, we are the venture capitalists, right?
Yeah.
Simon, what do you think the return I need on my money as a VC needs to be if I'm giving you money? What do you think that return needs to be?
I think you need to return the fund with this investment potentially, right?
Yes,
so
sure.
you need to see a 10 to 20x return on your money.
So Simon, actually, it's a lot higher. Okay. Right. And I'm going to give you a number that's going to stick in your mind. And this is why we asked you to give us a little bit of a bigger picture. When you map out a typical, $100 million fund, for instance, $300 million fund, to return the money back, it's around 68x return.
Wow.
Okay. And I'll show you the math later on. I'm not going to bore you with it today. I'll bore you with it later on as part of the program. But Simon, I need a 68x return, which is why I need to see your vision. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right?
I get it.
And that's kind of where I'm coming with this feedback, because you have all the pieces, you have the thought process, you have the hipster glasses, right? You have like the right accent, you have all the right thought process. You're presenting yourself with all the right pieces, Mitch. Am I right? All the things are there, but we need to now know exactly where do you see yourself in that ecosystem and how we are going to get a 168x return, right? And so 168x return is what, is it $136 million on the money. So Simon, here's the exchange, okay? I'm going to give you 2, but in the next 6 to 10 years, I need $136 million back, okay? Right? That's the monetary exchange we're having, okay? Just very clear. Anyone else watching, we want to ask for $500,000, give them 68x back, okay? And you're probably wondering why it's 68 exactly. It's just how I mapped it out, okay? Some people say 70, some people say 50x, whatever, Simon, but my math is always 68x return, meaning that they're not a good VC, right? We're not talking to Sequoia here. We're talking to the average VC. But Simon, I need that, right? I need to know what that exchange is going to be. And that's why we're coming out with these questions around bigger vision, where you actually sit, whether you're the protocol or where you're a little bit on top of that. And I think, Mitch, your Bixby example is perfect, right? It's exactly that point. And we need to make sure that we navigate this well, Mitch, so that you find the right home and also present the right return formula for the VCs, Simon, because you have it.
And the crystallizing idea is this will sound offensive with some VCs, but the crystallizing idea gives them something that they can use their herd mentality and go, I know a lot of people believe that too and are investing in it. So I'm going there as well. But hopefully I'm the first one to recognize Simon and INSTREAMATIC.
Yeah.
Great.
And
guys, that's such good advice.
So Simon, one other thing around it is like, and again, this is for everyone else, like it's really interesting, Simon, when I first started on my journey long time ago, I was a little intimidated by VCs, okay, right? And over time, I met a lot of VCs, became friends with them, and I realized they were just regular, ordinary people. And Mitch, I want to talk a little bit about what you just said now around herd mentality, okay, Simon, right? And then out of the blue, my brother-in-law becomes a VC as well, right? And so he's making investments too. And I saw, I saw him when he was in high school, right? Like I saw the kid grow up, right? And I was looking at it, and the herd mentality piece, Simon, is so relevant. And what I try to be able to, so herd mentality means that they're looking at the same TechCrunch, Chat GPT releases, all of that, they're watching the same TED Talks and all the other components. And what happens is there's flavors of the month within the generative AI space right now, right? And so if you can play to that and then tell them, hey, this is where the future is going, right? And we're going to play to that, it just makes your pitch all that more compelling, but really attaches them in, right? Because there's a herd mentality, and they tend to forget what was in fashion last month changes month to month. right?
Well, and they all want to be the lead steer, right, in the herd.
Right.
Mm. Yeah, there is a bit of an ego game too, right, Mitch, amongst them, right? Which is why it's good to check out their portfolio of investments and work from there. But Simon, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's very helpful.
Yeah. Simon, you have on your hands, this is a $500 million company you have right now. Okay. You have all the pieces, your timing is great. All the pieces are there. And I think that if we just, a couple of these tweaks, right? And you know, even raising funds right now in your space, shouldn't be that difficult. And the good thing around it is the hoopla and generative AI makes it easy for people to understand where you're going now, right? I think a lot's changed even the last month, right, Mitch? Lots changed even
every week.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, while it's changing fast, it's getting increasingly complicated to understand what's real and what's not. So that's why all the concrete progress that you demonstrate is important to the story, not just pretty picture.
Yes, absolutely. So Simon, thank you very much for your time today, right? And again, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We're going, let's continue this journey. We're going to hear your pitches, and it's always our pleasure, Simon, always our pleasure, right? But great pitch, and look forward to seeing the final version of this. And then what we're going to do, Simon, as part of the Hyper Accelerator, we're going to do a topic on venture capital math, okay? And fundraising and your capital strategy. That happens a little bit later, but this will connect with what you're talking about right now. And let's make sure we map all these components out. And you have a superstar like Mitch in your corner as well. So it's exciting to see where this goes.
Good. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.